Welcome back to the In Between Overs podcast, where your host of the day's play. I'm Taran.
And I'm Ishan.
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and smash the like button.
So India's Super 8 journey began with a game against South Africa. It was a repeat of the last World Cup final in which India snatched victory from South Africa. So coming to play at this game here in Ahmedabad on a black soil pitch again. Both teams played extremely competitively. It was a pretty one-sided affair. South Africa pretty much sealing the deal against a very comprehensive win against India. India, the team that looked unbeatable this entire tournament, got beaten very extremely comprehensively by South Africa. Taran, what were your thoughts?
South Africa showed the world what happens when you spend a lot of time in the conditions you're going to play the World Cup in. South Africa's played a series before this, not too long ago in India. They've been in Asian conditions for most of the last few months, and it's showing in their approach to the game. They got to play at Ahmedabad, I think, 3 games out of their group stage games. So they definitely got used to the stadium and the pitch. Although the pitch did play slightly different than what they're used to, they certainly were helped by having experience there. Some of their players have played here during the IPL. David Miller, who we'll talk about, played for Gujarat for many years at this very ground, and his experience showed today. He played a gem of an innings, and you just felt South Africa assessed the conditions well. They played like the home team here. I hate to say it, but they played like the home team in these conditions. They had their plans, they executed their plans well, and they came out with a massive W. I thought India were not going to not going to get beaten this Super 8s, but I did say the one team that looked like a challenge was South Africa. They've played their they've played their group games where they were challenged by other teams. They beat New Zealand, they beat Afghanistan in a tight game. They've played in different game situations, and they look like a team that is determined to to get that one more step than they did the last World Cup.
Yeah, exactly that. And, at least how the game started off, it did not look like South Africa was off to a great start. Obviously Indian bowlers were able to make some inroads during the power play. But then, a very key partnership was established, kind of, was the key to sort of getting to that, 150 plus target. What were your thoughts on sort of David Miller's and Brevis's sort of contribution to that partnership? Because that partnership was extremely important to steady the ship towards those middle overs there.
That partnership was the game changer for me. It was what won South Africa the game. More than David Miller, super impressed by Dewald Brevis. He was under a little bit of pressure. Didn't have a ton of big scores coming in, but he absorbed the pressure so well. I really like the way they took down Varun Chakravarti. Obviously, Bumrah had a fantastic match, which we will talk about. And then the other 4 overs that we've talked about is Varun Chakravarti. How do you get 10 and over against them? Well, they did it easily today. You got to say that the pitch assisted the faster bowlers more than the spinners. There wasn't a lot of turn in there, but Varun has enough guile and enough ability to still trouble batters. But he was put under tremendous pressure by the South Africans, who went after him in the first couple balls of every single over, and they succeeded. And kudos to Brevis for the way he took down Chakravarti. David Miller as well, fantastic innings by both of them. That partnership ended up taking South Africa from a position of uncertainty where it could have been bad for them, and they ended up putting together a platform where 200 was on the cards. And we'll talk about India's ability to pull that back, but 200 was on the cards for South Africa because of that partnership.
Yeah, exactly that. And because 200 was on the cards, it was also due to the fact that Tristan Stubbs played explosive innings as well. He was able to make some quick runs, especially the way he finished off the innings against Hardik Pandya. That was also an interesting couple of sixes there. What were your thoughts on sort of his innings at the end?
I was going to mention Tristan Stubbs slowly turning into the finisher role here for South Africa, and he showed that in the SAT20. He had a phenomenal SAT20 where I believe he won his team the chip, where he played a phenomenal innings to finish that game in the finals, and he's showing a massive prowess as a batter at that number 6 position, where he's usually coming in the back end of the innings and playing those game-changing innings right at the very end. We saw that against Afghanistan too, where he was able to tie the game in the super over and then scored some runs in the second super over to give South Africa that massive target that they set Afghanistan. Same thing here. You felt that South Africa at one stage, looking for 200, would probably struggle to get to 175, and he ended up taking down Hardik in that last over and really pushed the target to a point where India needed to take risks at the start of the game.
Yes, yes. No, it was a really important for them to sort of get that momentum going into the second innings there. But as you mentioned earlier, India was able to sort of restrict them by potentially maybe 15, 20-ish runs by some some phenomenal bowling. I think you mentioned earlier Bumrah, 3 wickets, 15 runs in 4 overs, test match sort of figures there. With a game changer like that, it's really hard to believe that a team is on the losing side.
4 overs, 15 runs, 3 wickets. It doesn't get better than that. Every single wicket that he took was created by Bumrah. His ability to get Quinton de Kock and Ryan Rickleton out was huge for India, but it was unfortunate that India couldn't capitalize on it. I think South Africa still were able to execute their game plans despite losing the 3 wickets. They absorbed, like I said, that partnership absorbed the next half of the innings really well. And I feel India missed out on Akshar Patel in this bowling innings. Washington Sundar is an amazing player and an amazing bowler, but I feel that Akshar Patel would have been able to get something out of this wicket because of his ability to maintain lines and lengths, regardless of whether he's bowling against a lefty or righty. I still don't understand the non selection of Akshar Patel. There's talk that is perhaps because of South Africa's top three, or sorry, two of the top three being left-handers, and then of course you have David Miller coming in. But we didn't see anything that Sundar did to trouble the South Africans. Again, you can argue it's the pitch. And then on the flip side, you have Keshav Maharaj, who's the left-arm spinner, who still played while India had, I believe, India has 5 or 6 lefties in their squad in terms of batters. And he
Mhm.
still played and did really well for South Africa, even though he wouldn't be the right matchup for the left-handed batsman. So don't quite understand it there. Akshar Patel has been India's go-to batter and bowler when the chips are down in either bowling or batting. India's gone to Akshar Patel. He's India's vice captain as well. So I really did not understand leaving him out.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree with you. There's two things that I would sort of add here. One, in a tournament format, I do believe that the stability is needed in the 11. I think, you can be, willing to change people up here and there based on load management or the opposition. But I think you need to have a clear 11 going into almost every game. We know, under Gautam Gambhir, there's always surprise 11s, surprise selections. I think Sundar, with not having played a lot of cricket under him recently, perhaps just needed to be there ready just in case there was a replacement needed. But Akshar Patel, as you mentioned, he is just able to, play extremely well. And if you remember in the World Cup final, in the last T20 format World Cup final, sorry, Axar Patel is the one who helped stabilize the ship with Virat Kohli against South Africa in the final. You definitely have to consider his experience and as well. As much as India was missing the experience of Kohli in this innings, you had Axar Patel who was part of that. So again, just going to the fact that he could bat out up at the top, which he did in the last iteration of this World Cup. And second, as you mentioned, I don't see why he didn't play this game. Forget about the opposition, forget about the matchups. It's also his home ground. It's Ahmedabad Stadium. Now, if someone who knows the pitch, someone who's able to have experience there, it would be him. So yeah, very surprising his exclusion from the 11 today.
So India came out to bat to chase down the target. You felt that they had some sort of momentum. Maybe some of it was taken away in that last over by Stubbs, but India needed to get off to a good start, and all eyes were on Abhishek Sharma, who did not face the first ball in this match. It was Ishan Kishan, and Ishan Kishan turns out to be the one that fell to the off spinner. I feel every single match that India plays going forward in T20s, they are going to face an off spinner in every single match as long as these two lefties are the openers.
Oh, 100%, 100%. You saw today Ishan Kishan maybe taking one for his teammate, obviously short on runs there, Abhishek Sharma, but hey, did not work out for him. Again, poor shot, it is what it is. To have people found the kryptonite for India? Perhaps, because, we know how explosive Ishan Kishan and Abhishek Sharma is. For people who are able to hit bombs, they should be able to figure this out. But no, to your point, I do expect at least this tournament, at least going forward, each team is going to start opening up with an off spinner.
And you felt that at some point it was going to catch up to Tilak Varma as well, who has effectively opened the innings in the last 4 games for India. He's come out in the first over. And you felt at some point it was going to take a toll on him, and it happened today. It was a very uncharacteristic innings from him. He only lasted 2 balls. What the shot that he played is more characteristic of Abhishek Sharma stepping out to Janssen. I thought it was a pointless shot. Janssen is very good with the new ball. He gets the extra bounce. He's able to swing the ball both ways. Generally swings it away from the lefties. I thought that shot was unnecessary because the extra bounce is hard to predict off of Janssen, and you need to give yourself a chance against him. And it was a clearly that he miscalculated the bounce because he got an edge on the top side of the bat, which went through the keeper and it was an easy catch. And he even took a review with him there.
Yeah, that view is shocking because usually in those scenarios you can tell if it hits your bat, but it is what it is. But no, really, really unfortunate. At least opening three there as well, and you look at Sky as well. Shorter runs today. It's the entire team, right? And I do think that a part of that was South Africans, bowling style. I think and tactics as well. One, they're very disciplined, and second, they were pretty reliant on the slower ball as well. I think the slower ball
Yes.
is what got Sky as well, and just using that as a sort of game-changing delivery kind of shows that is India reliant on using pace? If a team sticks with spin and sticks with, a slower ball tactic, is that enough to beat this attack, right? So it's interesting that India, it's interesting, and it's definitely something that India needs to look into going forward.
Slower balls were the game changer for South Africa today, and it was mentioned. I think David Miller mentioned it at the press conference after, where he said that yeah, it was a deliberate tactic where they realized that the slower balls are working on this pitch. And I want to give a shout out to one of the bowlers who did not take a wicket today, but is fast becoming hard to read with the slower balls, as hard as it is to read Bumrah's slower balls. I would say Lungi Ngidi, his slower balls are absolutely amazing to watch because his arm movement stays the same regardless of what delivery he's bowling, although the speed of the ball changes and it actually dips on you, and it's very hard to pick. And you saw Sky struggle against it. You saw the other batters struggle against it too. They weren't able to pick it, and it showed in his bowling performance. He didn't take a wicket, but he gave 15 runs in 4 overs, which is exactly what Bumrah did. And that kind of nullified Bumrah's performance. And of course, you had the others take wickets because of that, because he was able to hold pressure on one end.
Yeah, and exactly. You hold pressure on one end with a chase like that. It is incredible. And I did read a stat out there as well. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, India has only been able to have a successful chase. I believe it was over 152 or 155 on 4 occasions. And on each of those 4 occasions, the man of the match was Virat Kohli. So are India missing a player like that who is able to time the innings, and not only time the innings, but bring his teammates as well as he times those innings? Definitely some shoes to fill, but I think it's definitely a thought to have for sure.
I'm glad you brought up chasing. This is also the first time India chased in this World Cup, and they were tested hard. And I feel once again this is going to be a template by teams going forward, where I feel if they win the toss, they'll most likely bat first and make India chase. It feels like the only way you can get India is putting them under pressure because of how strong this team is, how deep they are in every department. I heard it on a podcast, the Stick to Cricket podcast with the English guys there, Michael Wall and Sir Asa Cook. I think it was Cook who was asked the question, and he said the only thing that can get India is pressure. And the deeper we go into this tournament, the more pressure is going to show up, and it's going to be interesting how India handle it, because this is their tournament to lose. And I felt India missed a trick in the last game against Netherlands where they won the toss and decided to bat first, where I felt they should have bowled first and chased, because that would have given them some practice chasing a target.
No, that's a really good point there. And in a tournament setting, you need to be able to both bat and bowl well of both innings, regardless of what the coin toss is. So again, we're seeing that here as well. We hear a lot about that in places like Dubai, obviously with the do factor, but over here as well, you just got to keep the toss out of the equation and play as it is. And you look at the composition of the team. The team has transitioned with younger players. Some of your experienced players are the Pandyas, the Shivam Dubey, the Skies, but a lot of your team are sort of the younger second generation coming in. And because this is also a home World Cup, you have that extra pressure, right? So India, and I hope would learn from the 2023 ODI World Cup that as good as you're playing, and again we hyped them up in this podcast as well. As much as you call them the team of the tournament, as that podcast says, the crowd, the occasion, the marketing, all could get to you, and it definitely seems like this younger generation have to grapple with that if they want to succeed this World Cup.
Well, one thing's for sure, South Africa must have enjoyed those cupcakes at the end of this game.
No choking, no choking.
Yes, no joking. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, please Google the Star Sports ad for that hyped up this India versus South Africa Super 8s game. You need to watch that ad. It was terrible in our eyes. We felt it was unnecessary. But it was some banter that the I guess the channel decided to put in, but it has clearly backfired because South Africa comprehensive win. They didn't even this game wasn't even close at any time. So that the only time you could say was in the power play when South Africa batted, where India could have taken a couple more wickets and really, really, really choked the necks of South Africa at that point and got them to a lower target than they ended up scoring. But South Africa were able to lift themselves up, and we're talking South Africa at the top of the table. India's got two must-win games now. What are you looking forward to the next game against Zimbabwe?
I'm looking forward to a comprehensive win from India. I think if India want to, get a win first and foremost, obviously, but also increase their net run rate, I think India should bat first and really just go for it. I think Abhishek Sharma and Shakir should just, literally go for it and just make it one of those games where it becomes, as we said in this podcast earlier, a game where it is a blowout. I think at this point we've seen how important net run rate is in a sort of Super 8 setting. So I think definitely a big explosive start from India. And secondly, I do want to see Axar Patel back in the squad. I think he creates balance. He has experience coming in to bat it at after the third wicket falls, as we saw in the last World Cup. So I definitely want to see Axar Patel, if fit, still playing.
Yes, India is definitely chasing the eight ball now. They went from tournament favorites to literally in a position where they have to win their next two games and not just win it, they have to win it big because their run rate right now is negative 3.8, the net run rate. South Africa's got a healthy net run rate. They could probably afford to lose a game as long as they don't lose it badly and still be in a position to make it to the next round. Whereas India's got to win comprehensively to make their way because we could see a scenario where we could have three teams on 4 points.
Yeah, yeah. And I forgot which World Cup this was. Maybe Champions Trophy in around like the early 2014, 2015s, where I believe India did come third. I think Pakistan was also in that group. I forgot what year it was, but they came third at 4 points each, and they were out based on I think a 0.04 difference in that run rate. So we just know how important that can be.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting now with India having to come from behind to make it to the next round. We look forward to the next game. Until then, that stumps.